Hi, everyone, and welcome. We are so excited to have Mike on today. And Mike was just telling us, or telling me and a few of you, that he just became a dad. So congratulations with your new baby. This is your first, right? Am I correct on that?
This is my second. Yeah, we have
Oh,
a
second.
10-year-old and now we have a baby girl. Yep.
Wow. Wow. Okay. I didn't realize that. Well, congratulations. So, before we get started, I just wanted to welcome everyone. Once again, I know people are coming in. If you're watching the recording, welcome as well. We are so excited to have Mike today. Mike was highly recommended by Rachel, who is a friend of mine, and wrote Rachel Richards, who wrote Money Honey. Um, so that's one of two of her best-selling books. That's the one that I think of the most. I think the other one is something like, is it like
Active
passive
retirement,
act?
passive income.
Yes, yes. I always sometimes confuse that and flip that script. But yes, so we are super excited to have Mike on today and be sharing such a wealth of knowledge when it comes to speaking, how to book your first, maybe your next, how to get paid, and so many other things. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Mike, and just wanted to remind everyone before we get started that this is part of the Conference Connect series. I'm not sure how you found this webinar, but I'm very grateful for you being here. I'm the founder of Conference Connect, and you can create a free speaker page on Conference Connect, which will also help provide visibility to getting more speaking engagements. So with that, thank you so much, Mike, for joining us today, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Ashley. It's so great to be here with everyone. It is amazing that I'm actually even in this spot right here where I'm speaking. And the reason why I say that is because when I was a kid, I had a speech impediment. So I was that kid when I was growing up that people said, now, what did he say? What did he say? Have you ever been around someone like that where you almost feel embarrassed to ask the parents what their kid said? Well, that's how my parents were with me. And so they brought me to speech therapy. And so I ended up getting some help overcoming a lot of those real difficulties that I had. Many years later, I had all kinds of embarrassing faux pas and all kinds of challenges, including crippling fear and overcoming getting on stage. And so today, just the fact that I'm here, it really marks that really where you are is not where you need to stay. And what we're going to talk about today is crafting a really killer keynote that changes lives and that you get paid to do so. I'm going to walk you through this, and this is really going to help you because a lot of times people think that if I want to get on Conference Connect and I want to land some incredible stages, if I want to have all these incredible opportunities to speak, I really need this amazing story. However, I've been at all kinds of conferences, all kinds of different places, and there's been all kinds of opportunities where I've heard amazing speakers who don't have that story. And then I heard one guy who had this incredible story, but he wasn't a great speaker. And so he got paid $2,500 for the incredible story but not delivered in a way that I'll teach you here today during our time. So ultimately, if you want to become a paid speaker, it's about three different things: structure, bookability, and creating moments that people don't forget. So that's what we're going to cover today. But before jumping in, you heard a little bit about where I started after I overcame that. But before I ever became a keynote speaker, I started out with a whole bunch of failures. So if you've been thinking, Mike, how do I get into this game? Cool, I don't have a speech impediment, but how do I get in this game? Well, when I first launched, that was me. I wrote a book that no one read. I had one review on it. The same year I got married. So, yes, that is my wife who left the review. I had a website. You see the picture from it. And I had a head full of doubts because I couldn't get book sales and because I couldn't get booked to speak on stages. I started having all these thoughts like maybe no one wants me, or maybe I'm just wasting my time, or maybe I just don't have what it takes. So if you're here and you've tried this, I'd love to know that, by the way. Always feel free to drop some stuff in the chat. Let me know what's resonating with you. And maybe you've thought, I've been trying this for years, or I've been writing a book, or I have written a book, or I'm already speaking a whole bunch and just wanting to up my game. Let me know where you are in this process. And that way I can kind of craft a little bit of this workshop to help you. But perhaps you, like me, were in the spot where you have all these thoughts that are running through your mind and you're just wondering how to do it. Well, In 2019, I had a conversation that changed everything. And it's the same person that Ashley and I met each other through. Rachel Richards was reaching out for someone to help her get ready for her college keynote. So I jumped on a phone call with Rachel, and Ashley, I told you a little bit of the story, but just to dive in a little bit deeper with it, Rachel was going to speak on the stage, and she was very nervous about it, and she wasn't feeling confident on what to write and what to speak on. She'd written this killer book. It was getting amazing reviews. I jump on a call with her. She's seeking some help, and she said, "Hey, I'm invited to speak at an event." I said, "Oh, really? Cool. Is it paying?" And she said, "Yeah, it's paying this amount of money. I think it was $5,000. I'm like, "Wow, really?" But I never got paid $5,000 to speak on stage. People get paid $5,000 to speak on stage. And she said, "Yeah, I wrote a book." I said, "Oh, yeah, cool. Who'd you go through?" She said, "I self-published." I'm like, "What?" And so we ended up deciding to work together. And I coached her and she coached me. She coached me on writing my book and I coached her on preparing. And when I saw that she delivered this and did it extremely well, I thought, wow, if this 25-year-old, I think she was 25 at the time, can do this, maybe I can do this as well. So I threw myself into learning everything about speaking. So the structure, the delivery, the business side of getting booked. There was all kinds of info out there, so I collected it. I read something like 15 different books. All this information was scattered. It took me years to pull all together, but it worked. Fast forward, I followed Rachel's suggestion along with selfpublishing.com and with Kindlepreneur and a whole bunch of other places. I ended up writing a book. It is now the highest rated book in the world on overcoming the fear of speaking. And then I ended up landing a TEDx a couple of years ago as well. And just in terms of speaking on stages, over the last several months, this is what my speaking calendar has looked like. 2 in December, January, February. I had 5 in March, including 1 international. And then I had 3 in April, including 1 international, and then May and June. And then you're thinking, well, Mike, why is July not on there? It's because in July, we introduced Maggie Acker to the world, named after my mom, who passed away 20 years ago. And that's our 10-year-old son holding his baby sister, and you're welcome to all say, "Ah." And so I decided at this point in time to pivot from traveling. I was traveling a whole bunch, and instead to do for others what I had learned how to do. So this is a little bit of my own story. And what I want to help you do is really ultimately engage in speaking at a whole nother level, because I know that speaking is the most powerful way to amplify your influence, really your income, and I'll show you why, and your impact. So Lincoln, Martin Luther King Jr., Churchill, obviously those are big, huge names. Think about Steve Jobs. The moment that I believe transformed Apple into the powerhouse that we hold in our pockets today was when he stood on stage and he said, "This right here has 1,000 songs in your pocket." And those 1,000 songs in your pocket became this revolution that ultimately became the smartphone. Also, Brene Brown, Tony Robbins, all these people and so many more, you as well. Your keynote can unlock careers, credibility, and ultimately it can actually change people's lives. So who am I? Actually introduce me a little bit, but I'm a failed first-time author and speaker, and I will say failed. It did not work, and I didn't do it for 10 years because of the failure. Now I am a best-selling author. My book makes $3,000 to $5,000 every single month, and a keynote speaker. Ultimately, I ended up pivoting into a lot of executive rooms and training executive teams. And I still train a lot of executives right here in Austin and around the world today. I'm an international spokesperson for a nonprofit agency and a TEDx speaker. So that's a little bit of who I am. And here's what I want to help you do today. I want to help you uncover the 3 different elements that every single keynote needs in order to get booked again and again and again. So we want that again and again and again. Now, let me just check in real quick here. I love this. Barbara, speaking a lot, but would like to speak more and get paid. Fantastic. David, you just want to up your game. This is great. This 3 elements here. Use this as a checklist right here. Yeah, Jimmy. Yeah, if someone would give you a chance and pay me, that's how I felt as well. Yeah, thanks for checking in there. And I'll just keep looking at the chat from time to time. So the 3 elements are going to apply for all of you right there. Then how to position your story. So Barbara, if you're looking to get paid more, that's going to be huge for you. And then ultimately, what separates paid speakers? And this is going to be a key one. We're going to workshop this, and there'll be different points in time where I pause and allow you to just have about 2 minutes to work and write down some different stuff. All right. At the end, I'll talk a little bit about what I'm doing as well, and if you want to do anything with me. But let's go ahead and take you through this content. First of all, the 3 elements that every single keynote needs to get booked again and again. Let me take you through the 3-part arc. Now, the 3-part arc is ultimately a structure. Every great keynote has to have a structure. See, most people, when they think about a keynote, they start with a story or a topic. Like, I want to speak on leadership, or I want to speak about how I overcame this and I can help others overcome this. But your audience doesn't just want information. Now, write this down. If you're going to write something down, this is something to write down. Your audience doesn't just want information. They want to be taken somewhere. Now, this, for a keynote, is where the 3-part arc comes in. So what does a 3-part arc look like? Well, here's one of the simple formulas that I teach. You start with a problem. So this is the pain or the tension. So if you want to workshop this right now, think about the problem that your audience is working to overcome. So if you're speaking to doctors, what is the problem that the doctors are looking to overcome? If you're speaking to single moms, what is the problem that single moms are looking to overcome? What is the tension that people that you want to speak to are trying to overcome? And then the path. And the path is really ultimately is going to be the process. It's going to be the lessons that you're going to walk them through. It's really the bulk of the content is the path. And then finally, the promise. This shows up at the beginning, and then you clarify it at the end, and it shows them what's possible if they take action. So every great keynote follows this kind of rhythm, even if the words are different. Now, why does this work? It's because the problem hooks their attention. They feel seen. That you get them. You get up on stage and you say, maybe you've been in this moment where you've been trying to kick an addiction, and I've been there. And that problem that you understand, that tension that they're trying to get through, it makes them feel seen. You get them. And then the path builds trust because this is the path that you've walked on. You understand the way. Think about it. If you're going to hire a guide, you want a guide who's been where you are going. And the path is showing them where you are going. And then the promise is offers them transformation. So you're giving them a vision of what can be if they follow the path that you're outlining for them. So this combination moves people from just listening to actually engaging. Now you think, Mike, is this the only way to go through it? No. There are other 3-part arc structures. So you could do something like shift, struggle, success. So is anybody here doing a personal transformation type talk? You want to talk about how to transform your personal life? Then this one right here, and if that's you, just jot it in the chat real quick, just so I can see. So the shift, struggle, success could be a great one for you. Here's a shift of mindset. So Jimmy, perfect. So Jimmy, think about what's the shift of mindset they need to have? What's the struggle that they're going through? And how is that shift going to affect the struggle? And then what does success look on the other side once they implement the shift into the struggle that they have? Anybody here want to do a TEDx or a TED? Just jump in the chat and say me or TEDx, got one. All right, cool, Jimmy. Right on. Anybody else? Here's how you do this. And I used to coach a whole bunch of TEDx speakers. So David, great. Barbara, fantastic. Anybody else there looking to do it? Nice. Anita, great. So I actually used to coach for one of the largest TEDx's in the United States. In Seattle, about 3,000 people would usually be part of it, as well as the online platform was huge. And here's the general 3-part arc for a TEDx. Ready? So write this down for everybody who's looking to do this. Hook, story, application. If you go back through almost every single TED Talk, it's going to be hook, story, application, including mine. Here's another one. This is what I do with I have a client that I meet with every quarter. He's a CEO of a massive company in Saudi Arabia, and I'll be going out there in October to workshop with him. And here's what we do. What was, what is, what could be. So just choose the one that feels the most natural to you. And I walk people through this, and I go through this a whole bunch more in my one-on-one programs and such. Ultimately, here's a checklist for this. And I've been using this for about 15 different years. And it's really about feel, know, do. So anytime that I used to give talks, even before doing keynote speaking, I would always think about, what do I want people to feel? What do I want them to know? What do I want them to do? And if you don't have this, then your talk is missing. Every single talk needs to have a feel, know, and do. Now, typically, one is going to be higher rated than another. For example, in this kind of talk, the highest here is no. I'm giving you a whole bunch of information, but there should be a sense of feeling as well. Like, hey, I can do this. That's the feeling I'm going for here. Like, this is possible. Wow, I get it. So that's what I'm going for. Feeling no, I'm trying to give you content that helps you craft a killer keynote. And then do, I'm actually encouraging you to write things down right now along the way. And you actually use this as a checklist. Now, the problem drives people typically to how they feel. The path typically is what they need to know by the end. And the promise drives them to what they need to do because of this. So this makes your arc more than just a story. Now it becomes a tool of impact. Now, why does this matter so much? It's because structure kills overwhelm. So if you get up there in front of people and you say a whole bunch, people walk away going, wow, that's cool. And they don't know what to do with it. But you don't need to write the perfect talk every single time. So it kills the overwhelm in you as well. When you use these arcs, here's what's huge. You build repeatable keynotes that consistently land in the audiences you talk. And that makes it a business, not just a one-off speech. Now, I see a couple different people here. You've already been speaking and you've already been up there. My guess is that you might be doing what I used to do. Every single time that I would get invited or try to speak at an event, I would write a brand new speech or significantly alter the speech that I would give. And so it wasn't a one-off. I wasn't building a business at that point. I was building one-offs. But instead, now you have a structure and it makes that keynote portable so that you can adjust it to different audiences. But it's the same keynote. It's given to the same type of people. And that is what you want at first. 3 elements that's really going to cause you to stand out. So here's what we're going to do in just a moment is I'm going to give you a moment and I'm going to bring back these questions right here. And I want you to think through, what pain or tension does your audience feel? Quick caveat, I don't want you thinking, I won't go into this in tons of details right here, but I want you to think about everyone that you could talk to. I want you to get very narrow with a specific audience. So project managers, nursing leaders. What is it that you're speaking to? So think about your ideal audience, get more niche down. So when I wrote my first book, I was specifically writing to people who are afraid of getting up in front of people and speaking. That was my first book. So very niche down. It wasn't just public speaking, niche down. I want you to think, even as I talk, write this down. What path or tension do the people that you're speaking to feel? Okay. Second one is I want you to think about the path, walking them through some key things that these people need to know. So their pain is overcoming the fear of speaking. Now, what is the path that is going to be present for them so that they can overcome that fear of speaking? Or in your case, maybe it's business leaders or moms or dads or kids or addicts. And then the promise. What is the promise? What is the other side of what you're offering lead them to? If it's just that they know something, that's not enough. What is it going to take them to? What is the transformation? What's possible if they know what you want them to know? Okay, so we walk people through that. Now we have the 3 elements. Let's take you to the second lesson here, the second takeaway. Ultimately, what makes a talk bookable? What makes a talk bookable? So your talk, I want you to think about this, that your talk is ultimately a product. If you don't think of your talk as a product, then it doesn't get rebooked and rebought. So bookable talks aren't just good, they get rebooked. People want it. And it's not because they're flashy. It's not because you come up there and you're just, but because they work. So think about like software. Probably every single person here uses Microsoft Word. Maybe you don't. But think of it like Microsoft Word. What does Microsoft Word solve? What does ChatGPT solve? What does PowerPoint solve? What does Asana solve? So you got to think about, hey, does your product solve a problem? And then can that Microsoft Word be installed in multiple different places? If you have to have a brand new word processing for every single computer, then it's not scalable. It's not a business. You just created a one-off. It's got to be something that can be installed in different places. And that's what people are looking for when they book. So they're looking for, does this solve a problem? And can this be installed here? And so you don't want just one thing that can be installed in one place. That's a lot of work and it's not repeatable, and you actually can't do it incredible at a really high level to consistently be writing new stuff. Bookers are looking for people who can create something that solves a problem and can be installed right there for their audience at a very high level. All right, so what does that look like? What are some traits of a bookable talk? Let me flesh this out here for you. Here's 5 different traits of a bookable talk. And then you can use this as another checklist. First of all, clarity. Can you describe your talk in one sentence? If you can't, then bookers can't either. This talk right here is about how to craft a killer keynote that people want to book. That's it. It was in the title. Sometimes the heart of your talk is also the title, but sometimes it's not. But if you can't clearly put it in one sentence, then you don't have clarity around it. If you have to add on run-on sentence, you don't have clarity. So really work to clarify it down. Now, ChatGPT can be good for this. However, I would never trust ChatGPT to write my speech or my book for me. I would brainstorm with it, maybe give some different ideas, but don't let AI do that, because ultimately AI is not interfacing with the person on the other side. So really think through this and ask yourself, what is the heart of this? Maybe you work with AI and then you ultimately make it your own. Second, what makes a talk bookable? Value. So the audience has to say, man, I got it. So my audience takeaway here is I want you walking away with 1 or 2 steps that are going to clarify what you're going to do when you're speaking at a conference, at Conference Connect. I want you to walk away with it and go, that was helpful because I didn't know those 5 different things, or I didn't know the 3-part arc. That might be your 2 different things that you take away from this. What are the tangible takeaways, or what are the transformative moments that people are going to have from listening to you? So there's got to be value to people. And bookers are going to ask, what do my people get from this? And if you can't answer that, then you won't get booked. Third, transferability. So can this talk work at a sales kickoff, a retreat, or a webinar? One of the keynotes that I've been doing for years, and I actually just wrapped this keynote up, was called The Language of Leadership. And the language of leadership, I've spoke in sales environments to nursing leaders and to the executive MBA program of Washington State University, among several other places, but very transferable. And it was the same speech, just really applied differently to these different areas. All right, 4th area, you need surprise or a story. So it's like this emotional hook. There's got to be emotion in it. I talk a lot about this when I do all my trainings. I talk a lot about how if you're not connecting emotionally, then at the end of the day, that people are walking away and they're not transformed. So if you want transformation, you need emotion. You also need surprising elements. So something that people go, wow, what? Really? We'll get to that in just a moment. And then positioning. Are you owning an angle, or are you just trying to be another motivational speaker? So for years, I was just trying to be like a motivational speaker. Now I really focus in on communication. That's what I speak on, and the audiences I speak on. Now I'm shifting into a new keynote that I've just recently been working on and developing as well. That's all about personal advancement and growth in your career. So that's a new shift that I'm doing right there. But what's your owning your angle? What is it that you really speak to and really want to get niche down more? If you try to talk to everyone, you end up talking to no one. Speakers who really fail at these, they don't consistently get booked. But speakers who nail all 5 of these, then that's where you build momentum. Now here's the ultimate test. After your talk, do people come up and say, we need you at our event? That's not luck. That's what happens when you're truly bookable. So if people come up to you afterwards and go, my gosh, Once I really honed in on this, I was at an event in, I think it was in Des Moines. I was at an event in Des Moines, and I had two people come up, book me right away for different events. Same with Executive Washington, Executive MBA program, Washington State. I had people book me right away for a couple different things. That's when I was really going, oh, hey, I'm onto something here. That's the ultimate test. So as you go about crafting your keynote, deliver it, and then look for that test. That's when you are building momentum. Ultimately, a standing ovation feels incredible. It really feels amazing. People are like, wow, that's amazing. And those happen in different environments. They happen more frequent. But a follow-up email saying, can you do this for our next team? Or can you do this for our next event? Or someone coming up to you saying, hey, when are you available? That is the real scorecard. So cool if people say, hey, that was amazing, but much better if people say, can you do that again? I will take people saying, can you do that again, with no applause over lots of applause, but no rebookings any day. Ultimately, this is why it matters. When I was doing this in the kind of the prime of the language of leadership, going back to that talk before shifting to my most recent one and now shifting to a new one of my talks led to a $15,000 deal right from the stage, and then immediately afterwards an $8,000 deal. So that was when I was doing something called speak to earn. So there's three different outcomes that you're looking for when you speak. You can speak to earn, you can speak to sell, you can speak to impact. Now, what do I mean by that? So if I'm just getting paid to do a gig, then I'm speaking to earn. And so that's what that was right there. $15,000, $8,000 from that stage side leads. Now, another time, and this is actually not, this is back in January, I think, this led to a $200,000 sales for the company that I was speaking for. So I was brought in to speak, and then I got a cut from the sales that they were doing. Now, this is speaking to sales. So you get up on stage, you speak, and then you sell something, some kind of coaching or some kind of product that you have. And you can speak to impact. So I love speaking in some nonprofit environments. I do this on a somewhat regular basis. I'll do this in October, and really just raising awareness for some nonprofit work that I'm engaged in. Ultimately, when your talk is positioned correctly, the return isn't just on the day, it compounds into future bookings and more opportunities. So now let's wrap this and talk about ultimately the piece that makes your keynote unforgettable, the moment that people can't stop quoting. Let's jump over to the chat real quick, and I want you to think about some different people that have spoken. Can you drop a one line from any speaker? It could be a pastor, it could be a politician, it could be a keynote speaker, workshop, it could be your boss. Can you quote a line from a speaker? Put it in the chat. Let's see what people say right here. And as other people are doing that as well, think about, what is one line or what is one story that you have lived that you can do for others? All right, let's see what people write in the chat. I will go ahead and give one. John F. Kennedy Jr. What did he say? Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. We quote that years later. Anybody else got one right here? Uh-oh. No one's jotting down anything that's standing out to you from any kind of different speaker that you have listened to. That's not good news right there. That means that you haven't heard some speakers who have resonated with you. Let me give you a couple different thoughts. Yeah, perfect. Dana, if someone didn't say, I have a dream, I was going to be so disappointed, because it is probably one of the best one-liners forever. Yeah, 7 years ago. Come on, Gettysburg Address. Absolutely. And maybe some of you know this, but when Lincoln came up and gave the Gettysburg Address, there was actually a keynote speaker who spoke for about an hour beforehand, completely forgotten. And then Lincoln's speech was only 4 minutes, I believe, something really short. And it was incredible. Yeah, come on now. Churchill, we'll fight them on the beaches. I mentioned Steve Jobs earlier, 1,000 songs in your pocket. Huge, absolutely huge. And that, if you think about any modern politicians, there's some different modern politicians that have said some different things. There's different pastors, there's different leadership gurus. John Maxwell, leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Jimmy Clare mentioned autism is not a life sentence. It depends on how you look at it. Yeah, absolutely. So you got it from a quote from a magazine. Fantastic. Absolutely. Story of being fired and ready to go. This is huge. And again, all these, yeah, when they go low, we go high. Those kind of moments stand out. And it really helps you really be remembered. And that's what I want to help you do. And so let's workshop this a little bit. Even as you listen to me, I want you thinking about what's your signature bit, what's your moment that sticks. You don't need more time in your talk. You need a signature bit, the 30-second moment that people quote, share, and ultimately remember. Do you want to know mine? So here's one of mine. My dad was a drug dealer. My mom was a witch. I became a Christian. When I was 4 years old, they made a life-altering decision that changed my destiny. So I've used that in all these different environments right here. And it's memorable, it's short, and people come up to me afterwards asking me, was that real? And that's what they're looking for. So let me walk you through what makes your memorable moments, what your memorable statements stick. So even if you look at the chat and you see what different people have written, like I have a dream. So what are the components that make this stick? And I want you to think about this for your own. As I talk through this, I want you to think about what is your signature bit. And I'll give you some more keys and notes on that on the next slide as well. But what makes it stick? It has to support your big idea. So think about this. If I'm talking about my dad is a drug dealer, my mom was a witch, is that something I'm going to use when I'm talking about the language of leadership? Probably not, unless there's some weird tie in there. So just because you have something that's memorable and that's something that's real or something that's interesting doesn't mean that it fits if it doesn't fit with the big idea. So you need to make sure that it really fits the big idea. Absolutely. The context. Then it's got to feel emotional. So when I said my dad was a drug dealer, my mom was a witch, there's an emotional impact. Like, what do you think about when you think about drug dealing? It's like, oh my gosh, really? Some people come up to me and they'll come up and share decisions about their parents made for the positive or the negative. And they'll go, my gosh, I'm right there with you. So it feels emotional. Now you might be thinking, Mike, that's easy because that's more of the kind of transformational type talk. Well, here's mine for the language of leadership. Don't become a poor imitation of someone else. Become the best version of you. So that's my signature bit moment, the final transformation that I do after I do this whole map out on the whiteboard. So it supports the big idea that I'm talking to. It feels emotional because a lot of people are trying to become someone else. And it's short and repeatable. Become the best version of you. And I've had people send that to me in a DM afterwards and reach out to me afterwards. So you want it to be short and repeatable. Like if they got to be able to at least get the gist of it. And then ultimately, best, it creates silence in the room. Now, of the two signature bits that I just brought up there, one is at the beginning of my talk and one is at the end of my talk. And those are completely separate keynotes that I've used over the course of time. Actually, the first one is from a keynote that I currently use for nonprofit type environments. And the other one was one that I retired about a year and a half ago. And if you have questions, I can answer some questions on that. We can even do some strategy calls. And so if anything, you're like, Mike, why would you retire a keynote? If that's a question that you have and you want to do a strategy session with me afterwards, then make sure to jot that down. Ultimately, let me walk you through a couple different people who have done this extremely well and created some really incredible sticky moments, some signature bits. So Mel Robbins currently has created a brand new one. Let them, let me. Powerful. She walks you through the whole story and then she says, let them and let me. It's like, wow, sticks with me. James Clear, Atomic Habits, he says, this is a fantastic one. It's a little bit longer than what's on the screen. He says, every action is a vote for who you want to become. I think about that on a regular basis. So I heard that and now it stays with me. Lisa Nichols, she tells a story of looking for diaper money under the car seat. And she talks about hitting rock bottom. And Tony Robbins has something very similar in the context of being rock bottom and really needing to take control of his life when he talks about washing dishes in his bathtub. Now, these moments stick. They're simple, they're emotional, they're tied to the big idea, they're repeatable. Now, as you're listening to this, you're like, Mike, I don't have a story where I was searching for diaper money under the car seat. I don't have that one sticky sentence. Actually, you already have this. It's the story you always tell. What is the story you always tell? Or what is the line that people quote back to you? What is the moment that your friends repeat? Or maybe if you're married or you have kids or you have parents, you have close friends, they might say something like, tell us that story again. Now, what's at the heart of that story? They say, tell that again. And then all you need to do is reframe it so it becomes anchor for your talk. So for years before I was a keynote speaker, I would say stuff like, yeah, my dad was a drug dealer. And then eventually when I was putting this together, I became up with this. My dad was a drug dealer. My mom was a witch. I became a pastor. And I was like, okay, that's cool. But what's the message from it? And that's when I tied it into the life-changing decision. So all you need to do is reframe it, grab a hold of it. So it becomes the anchor for your talk. Like a lot of these people, they don't have these incredible stories. In fact, the let me is extremely normal life where Mel Robbins talks about how she was trying to control everything about her son's prom. And eventually her daughter said, just let them. And it stood out to her. So it doesn't have to be like, oh my gosh, you have a crazy story. You lost 3 legs and 2 arms. And now you don't have to have that kind of crazy out there story. What is the story you always tell? Now, as I'm talking, I'm hoping that you've written down a couple. Does anybody want to just venture to put that in the chat? It can feel a little bit private at this moment, so I won't push too hard on this, but maybe you already see what your signature bit could be. And I'd love to celebrate that with you and just really even hone it a little bit if you have some, and just some signature bits. I do in September, I start doing 2 hours of keynote workshop with people going through my programs with me. And really, this is what kind of work that we do, where we grab a hold of signature bits and we workshop it and we think through it a little bit. But if anybody wants to share it, you put it in the chat right there. All right, cool. Don't get too comfortable. Do the thing that scares you. Yeah, why not me? Yeah, overcoming bullying. So that's the story right there. Yeah, and Jimmy, a story like overcoming bullying is kind of like the story of my dad, drug dealer, my mom, witch. You have to grab a hold of that short, succinct moment. It might be something like, and that's the moment I realized I could stand up for myself. But that's just me taking a stab at the dark of it. But see how you tell the story and then you have this signature bit. So you tell the story, it's vivid, it's emotional, it's relatable. You have some, maybe you as well in there. So you have these moments where people can see themselves in the story. It's called universalizing the moment. So we individualize it and then we universalize it. And then we have this moment. The obstacle is the way. Cool. Love this. Great. This is great. Love hearing what you're doing. Okay, so let's recap this. Structure equals clarity. I gave you the 3-part arc. Bookability equals repeatability. And that's really ultimately what bookers are looking for. And then the signature bit, make sure that you are memorable. We go back to the 3 big takeaways. That's the 3 elements. So these are things that every keynote needs to get booked again and again. How to position your story so it resonates with both hearts and hiring managers. And then really what separates speakers from paid speakers is that moment where it's not just sharing the story, but it becomes a signature bit. Those are the 3 big takeaways. Now, here's what I would love for you to do. I'd love for you to think through that and really put in a couple thoughts of how you're going to put this into your keynote. Maybe you haven't started your keynote, and I gave you the 3 elements, and you can begin. Maybe you have finished your keynote, but you need to work on your signature bit. So think through a little bit of this. I'd love for you to shoot me a DM on Instagram or somewhere else. I'm pretty active on Instagram or LinkedIn. You can also send me an email just at mike.acker@uplevelcommunication.com. If you want to know what it looks like to work with me, ultimately, I really do believe that your talk can open in doors, and it can open up podcasts, conferences, deals, change lives. And it all starts with one clear message. This is what I've been doing. And now, instead of me traveling all the time, I'm raising up speakers so they can be on Conference Connect, so they can be around the world. And what I'm building in this new company I've started, for years I've been working with helping coach or helping people become great speakers, and now helping people become great public speakers. This is not a course. It is a training program that I wish I had when I started out. I was looking all over the place. I tried a whole bunch of different things, and I was very frustrated that I couldn't get what I needed to do. And so ultimately, this is what I put together to do it. It was exactly what I wished that I had. So when we invite someone to this program, and it is not something, I'm not going to take someone in that I do not believe that I can help them succeed in it. So because I'm only going to take people to work with them and that I believe in, I back it with a money back guarantee. So if your goal is to earn or is to sell something, then I guarantee that you can make back your investment or more within a year. And if not, we'll just make it right for you. This is not a course. This is the program that I wish I had on it. The goal of the company that I created in July, as Maggie was being born, or right before, is opening up 10,000 doors of opportunity. So I created this door tracker so that any of the people that I'm working with on kind of just professionals advancing their career, or anybody who wants to become a keynote speaker, I created a door tracker where they can put in there, hey, I got booked to speak. So my goal is 10,000 people over, or 10,000 doors of opportunity over the next few years that just comes from confident communication. So if that's you and you want to do something with me, then just check this right here. Shoot the QR code. If you're looking, hey, Mike, I don't want to pull out my phone for a QR code. I'll just drop this in the chat. It's the same link that pulls up on the QR code. So I just put that in the chat as well. And you can have 20 to 30 minutes with me, walk through a little bit, see if it's a good fit. If not, we'll just bring some clarity to a little bit of what you're doing as well. Or for someone said, like, my talk has great substance, I just need to create my signature bit. Great. If that's something that you want to do, not only in the program do I help people walk through their keynote, but this is ultimately what we do. So what's inside the program? 80 plus video trainings. In fact, I'm filming another 25 on Friday at a professional studio. Then we do weekly business calls. So if you've gotten stuck on how do I actually find the stage? I'm good at creating content. I got a book. I got a message. I'm good at speaking. But how do I do the business of it? How do I negotiate fees? How do I find stages? That's what the weekly business call is for, as well as there's about 43 different training videos that are specifically for that, and a whole bunch of templates that I created over the years for me to do it. And then I just put them on here and give them to you. Then there's a monthly workshop where we work on a whole bunch of the keynote itself. So if that's something you want to do, then you can go through and work on the keynote with me for about 2 hours every single month. There's a group of people, I ask them questions, we work through it. Live events, semi-annual events where people can come in at their own cost, so it's not additional to the program. Fly into Austin, meet with me for about 5 to 6 hours, and a small group of people. And we also create an opportunity for people to do video reels for their platform. There's one-on-one coaching, one at the beginning, one at the end, to really assess where you are, and then ultimately to help you on the back end, make sure its final evaluation is all set to go. So that's what the program looks like if you were to work with me. So if you're serious about doing this, if you want to build a career, if you want a money back guarantee on this, if you think that you have what it takes, but you want a whole bunch more and you want the process to do that, then go ahead, schedule right here, schedule.uplevelcommunication.com/strategy with Mike. We'll meet together over today, tomorrow, or the next day, work through that. Oh, that's cool. I just saw 2 people book right now. Hey, that's great. A little pop-up on my computer just happens, and there's a third one. That's great. So again, here it is for you, the QR code on this. You can take a picture of this. So if you're serious about doing this, you don't have to have it all figured out. You just need to take the next step. Let me finish up with this final story. After I finished speaking on stage one time, someone came up to me and they said, Mike, thank you so much. I was paid money to speak at that event. But that person who came up and talked about how it hit them, it wasn't even about what I was talking about, but there was one story that impacted. And this person came up. Now, I come from a Christian background, Christian part of a church, and he came up and I had just mentioned something about it in passing. Talk wasn't about that at all. But he came up and he said, man, would you pray for me? And there was just this one moment in the talk that something resonated with him far more than professional, far more than advancement. It was one of those moments that resonated with him so deep that he felt that he needed to come up and talk with me and turn a conference into a church. Those moments stay with you. when you can not only help someone, but you can meet them in a moment that's vulnerable, that's powerful, that keeps you connected through the years. And that's what I want for you. Not only financial success, not only for you to build your platform, not only for you to take your message and put it out to the world, but for you to change lives. Would love to see you on the calendar. I saw a couple more booking as I was talking about it. Looking forward to helping you out and helping you up level your speaker platform. Thank you so much. Ashley, I see you coming in there.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mike. This was amazing. I was jotting down notes the whole time. I really, really appreciate it. I also love that your program has the weekly business coaching because my business partner and I have a coaching program unrelated to anything like this. And it's very niche type of industry, but the the differentiator between the people who have success in our program and the people who don't aren't the people who consumed all the content right away. It's the people who show up to that meeting every week, because having someone that you can talk to know next steps, and also that's been there and has gone through the journey, has been so instrumental in having a lot of traction very quickly. It's not just the knowledge, which is interesting because one of the points you made is during the speech, it's people aren't just coming just for the knowledge. They're coming to have some sort of transformational emotional reaction to your speech, which I thought was pretty profound. So this is a great opportunity, everyone. Clearly, Mike is very well versed, and he's gone through a transformation himself from having fear with speaking to being sought after all over the world. So this is just a tremendous opportunity for all of you. And I hope you take him up on the call, because it seems like there's nothing to lose by scheduling the call and just exploring whether or not it's a great fit. If you're watching the recording, this is also open to you as well. So please don't feel that because you missed the live that you can't reach out to Mike. And of course, I'm sure he can answer any questions that you may have not been able to ask by not being on the call. So that's a great opportunity as well. Is there anything else you wanted to say, Mike, before we head off here?
I think the biggest thing that I would just encourage people is there's a sense often of, I'm going to do that someday. I think it's the biggest barrier for us in a lot of different things that we're trying to do. We've been thinking about it. We've been thinking about it. I asked one person who was planning on doing this, I said, how long have you been thinking about this? And he said, 15 years. Like, why? Why not take action on it? So with the same thought in mind, I was on a trip and I was speaking at an event. It was a long event. I was there all day, but I'd always wanted to climb up the Shasta Pinnacles in Arizona. I just thought, there's no time for me to do it. There's absolutely no time. I have no breaks, and I fly out early or that night. There's no time. So instead, I got up at 4 a.m. in the morning. I hired a guide since I didn't know the area well enough, and the guide took me up. And I thought about that afterwards, and I was like, you know what? I could have put that off and never done it, but I would have never captured that picture on the top of the Shasta Pinnacles. And so it's just absolutely amazing. Hey, if you've been thinking about it for a while, stop thinking, take action.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. We always say that if you're putting it off, then you're telling yourself it's not important to you. And people will always go, no, 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 it is important to me. Well, if it's important to you, you're going to prioritize it. You're going to make sure that you execute on what you think is important. So I couldn't agree with you more. Thank you again, Mike. I really appreciate it. And once again, anyone watching the recordings, please reach out to Mike. This has just been such a tremendous wealth of knowledge. And I'm sure anyone who takes you up on your offer will be their name in spotlights all around the world, just like you. So thank you again. Thank you everyone for joining. I hope you also create a page on Conference Connect so you can showcase your new speaking skills and your new kick-ass keynote. And with that, thank you again for attending. Thanks, Mike. Bye, everyone.
Bye.